Hey guys, my name is Eric, and today we're going to be talking about the Eotech VUDU 3-9 Battle Optic. Let's go ahead and roll the intro. Hey guys, thanks for checking out another HatchetCast episode. And today we're going to be talking about the Eotech VUDU 3-9 Battle Optic in second focal plane, as well as the eFlix red dot on top. We'll also talk about the details on this rifle build, the 13-9 build, and some of the things that we have on here, and then also just my general synopsis on the entire setup, specifically regarding the optic itself. Before we get started, make sure you hit the like and the subscribe button as always, and also comment below what your thoughts are on the 3-9 VUDU. Do you have one? And then also, what are your thoughts on second focal plane? Is it outdated, or is it something that's maybe underrated that most people don't really pay attention to? So let me know in the comments what your guys' thoughts are below. Love to start that conversation. Also, if you are wanting to train, it doesn't matter what kind of equipment you have, if you don't go out and invest in yourself, it really doesn't matter. So make sure you invest in yourself. You are worth it. Go to the BARRELHATCHET.com website and you can see the rest of the 2025 training calendar. We've got distance carbine, we've got night vision classes, pistol and rifle classes, as well as all the barrel and hatchet classes that you attend. They qualify you for the open gym run and gun community. So if you want to participate in open gym and you go to a barrel and hatchet class, those classes are going to gear you and prep you for the open gym community, which is a run and gun community. Myself and Ben from Wiseman Company actually started that, and there's a video on open gym and what it entails further along in an older video that we pushed on Barrel and Hatchet. Great community. I'm telling you, once you do that type of shooting, it's a continuous training program. You're never going to want to go back. We actually are going to be doing it at Bone Valley Industries, which is here in Mulberry, Florida. And so if you're in the Tampa area, Lakeland, or in the Central Florida area, a lot of classes will be done as well at Bone Valley Industries. So we'd love to see you there. New range facility that's being opened up. And also another place I'll be holding classes is, as always, Element Training Complex. Dion and the folks up there are an amazing community, so I'll continue to host classes up there as well. And then last but not least, on the calendar, there is a Minuteman Carbine Symposium. So I'm doing this as a collaboration 3-day course at the ranch in Texas. I'm finally going to go to Texas and do an event. There will be Adrian from Sidewinder Concepts. We'll be covering the long range portion of the carbine. I'll be covering just the handling and the weapon stuff on the short range stuff, but it'll be an amazing time. The 2025 Minuteman Carbine Symposium will be at the ranch in Texas. If you want more information, go check out the website. 3 days. We're also staying on the facility, so if you want to hang out, there will be a Bible study and fellowship, and it'll be a really good time of connection with each other and building new relationships moving forward. So if you're in the Texas area or in the general area or not, and you want to go to that symposium, we're only doing it once a year. Incredible time, a lot of knowledge, and it will be an absolute blast. So go check that out as well. And also another company that sponsors the channel every time is Wetworks. Now Wetworks is a nylon gear company, as you guys have known, and a gear spotlight that I want to talk about is actually something that is kind of existed always, but is now coming back because of the war in Ukraine. But that is the groin panel. Now this groin panel actually has soft armor, so it's able to stop frag and pistol caliber rounds. And what's cool about it is on this, if you look, there is actually a dump pouch. It's called the FUPA dump pouch, so I can put stuff here. You notice a lot of guys that are doing stuff that are in really hostile environments that are up close. They'll use that to kind of put their, drop intel or whatever that they pick up. Or it's just a great dump pouch to be able to put on the front of this groin plate. Now the groin plate is actually relatively lightweight and goes out of the way. But in Ukraine, because we're seeing so much FPV type stuff and artillery and frag, guys are trying to put as much protection on as they possibly can. So this actually came from feedback in that fight over there about what things people think is important. So Wetworks has all different types of stuff: plate carriers, chest rigs, AK placards, different types of body armor placards. So go check them out. They have a lot of great stuff. Go see the description of this video to get the discount code, or you can see the discount code here on the bottom of the ticker here. But special thanks to Wetworks for sponsoring this video. So going into the specs, starting off on this optic, the biggest question that a lot of people have is, what is the price? Now, it's interesting because this optic has gotten a lot of heated debate online on whether it's good or not, because specifically of it being in second focal plane. So for those who don't know, first focal plane versus second focal plane, second focal plane, the reticle stays the same size at 3x, or the bottom power, and also the top power, so it doesn't grow in size. Now, first focal plane optic will grow in size, so in first focal plane, at the very bottom power would be a really small reticle, and then as you zoom in, it continues to grow in size. And also, if you zero a second focal plane optic, you need to zero it all the way in or all the way out, and it will change. So the dope won't be the same. Your information and data that you have on the reticle will not be the same. As you zoom in and out, it will not be zeroed. So you have to take that into consideration. As far as first focal plane, no matter what power you have it on, it will be zeroed at every single type of power. So what's interesting is that second focal plane usually requires less parts, and it is a lot cheaper to manufacture. So that way you can kind of keep the prices down on second focal plane optics. As far as first focal plane optics, they're a lot more complex than a second focal plane. So as far as the manufacturing process, you usually see those to cost a little bit more. So going back to the most important part, which is the MSRP on this thing, it is $1,059, or if you get it with the E-Flex and the ring mount, so that we can run a red dot on top, which I highly recommend. Honestly, if you're gonna run this thing, I would almost run it in that combination exclusively. But if you do decide to get that, it's $1,429 with the E-Flex and the ring mount, so you run the red dot, and also the optic itself. Now, as far as the turrets go, there are in quarter MOA adjustments, so very similar to like a ACOG and a lot of your other prism or combat style optics. And it has an illuminated reticle over here on the side. Now, in the different settings, you do have the ability to have in-between numbers, which turns it off. And there are 10 brightness settings with a 300-hour battery life. Now, it does take a 2032 battery, which is really easily accessible here on the side. And the illuminated reticle is actually nice. Like, it's not just a tiny dot in the middle that illuminates, but you actually get some reticle in there. So where the illuminated reticle really comes into play, because I'm running a top dot, a lot of people will be like, oh, well, it's not daylight bright. That does come into play for like LPVOs or whatever that have more of a red dot feature inside the glass. But for this optic specifically, I believe the illuminated reticle makes the most sense for low light options. So at the very early dawn or dusk, whenever things start to get dark and you still need to be able to have some reticle. You know, we actually did a sundown match that Q did at JTAC a while back, and guys that didn't have illuminated reticles were screwed. Like, you could barely see the target because it was in that dusk or that dusk and dawn type of light. So, you know, if you didn't have that light, or if I was shooting in the dark and there was street lights illuminating the target, I got no other information in my reticle that I could use except for what my crosshair was directly on, because the target was illuminated with like a street light. And so having an illuminated reticle allows me to be able to still use some of that reticle and use some of that data that I've built with that. So if you're not running a illuminated reticle, it's going to be very difficult for you in low light settings. So as far as everything up close though, I use that top red dot for anything that's passive night vision shooting. I'm running that top red dot, the E-Flex. A lot of people have had issues with the E-Flex, but we'll talk about that here in a few. As far as the overall length, it is 6.8 inches, and the weight, which is really important, is only 16 ounces, so extremely lightweight optic. The optic height with the riser that it has is a 156, and one of the most important things to consider is, and one of the reasons that it's actually a little bit pricier for a second focal plane optic, is that it is all Japanese glass. So none of the stuff is coming from China. A lot of your high-end optic companies that are getting their higher end model optics are gonna be using Japanese glass, which is extremely crystal clear. Now the eye relief on this bad boy is really good actually. If you look at ACOGs, you have to get really, really close, almost nose to charging handle. On that type of system, the eye relief is terrible, but on this, you have really good eye relief, and so your face can actually be further away from the optic, which is very beneficial. So for the E-Flex, the red dot on top, the optic is actually mounted via like a locking, like a clamp ring. And the E-Flex is a 1 MOA click adjustment. It does have a bunch of different settings, use a standard 2032 battery. I have heard about these things breaking on pistols and that the reliability was not the best. However, that's just all hearsay. I didn't experience that myself. Ran this optic through the paces, as you guys know, like I typically do on all my equipment, and didn't see any issues with the optic turning off or any connectivity issues while it was rifle mounted. Now, that I never mounted it to a pistol, so that could be a different story. But as far as the rifle mounted E-Flex, didn't have any issues at all. No issues with the electronics in this optic whatsoever. So it does mount via 2 screws like you typically see. The one thing though is, like, I don't really prefer this type of mounting solution. On the side of the optic, they do have a leveling line, which is actually very nice, but having one of those clamps, if you end up putting it on wrong, don't do it right, it can end up turning or coming loose. I usually prefer a more hard mounting solution for this. One thing that obviously sticks out is the size of the optic. The optic size is really beneficial if you're trying to get a more low profile glass versus like an LPVO or full MPVO style scope, like a mid power variable range optic. And what's fascinating is that I think because it's in second focal plane, and that's probably why they went with second focal plane, was to be able to compact this to be a very small optic. Now, I'll get to the second focal plane here in a second, but having this smaller size is obviously very, very beneficial. I actually mounted it to the red right-hand upper when I was doing working on the support by fire video, and it's honestly, that's a huge bonus for me, is having a really small package. Myself and Dallas were out at Element Training Complex, good buddy of mine. I actually did a rate my build with Dallas on his 12.5 fighting rifle, but I'm gonna go ahead and roll with that video and you guys get to see how far we were able to walk it out using ball ammunition. All right, so we're gonna be stretching out the Eotech VUDU 3-9. I am running PMC X-Tac in 55 grain full metal jackets. So running this stuff, just your standard typical ball, running it out of a 13.9 Roscoe H-bar barrel mid-length gas. Now the VUDU 3-9, as you guys all know, is a second focal plane optic. Running the Eotech Flux on top, very small compact size. But one of the limitations of the second focal plane is when you are zeroed all the way, or when you are zeroing, you zoom all the way in order to be able to correctly use the hash marks on the reticle in your hold areas. Once you zoom out, it's going to be different. So if I go back to 3X, it will be different holds. It won't be the same hold. So I'm going to try to, you know, when we were testing it yesterday during the distance carbine course, is when I was in 3X, I would essentially hold center on every target all the way out to 400 roughly. I've got Dallas is going to be spotting me on the Night Force optic and specifically not giving me corrections, but mostly just giving me distances and ranges, because ideally if you're running this type of optic, this type of weapon system, you're not going to have a spotter. Maybe a buddy that has a piece of glass, but most likely you're going to be running your own spot. So we'll see what it is on 3X. I'll kind of talk about it, and then later on I will draw out where my holds are at 9X on the reticle and at what distance I needed to actually start zooming into the 9X magnification. So we're going to start off at the berm. So actually, Dallas, just work me from close to far. You guys will be able to hear Dallas. He's on the mic, and you'll be able to hear his spot calls.
All right, first target, berm right in front, white silhouette, 160 yards.
160. Okay, for 3X, I'm just gonna hold center.
On glass. Hit.
All right.
Next target, berm, Alpha 2. White round circle, range is 231.
231.
On glass.
The center circle on this reticle is big enough that it covers up the entire circle at A2.
Hits.
Okay. I just keep ripping out my beard hair on this stock, it's great.
Next target, Alpha 12.
Alpha 12.
Right hand side of the range, silhouette with a green horizontal line, range is 231.
Contact.
On glass. Impact, left side of target.
Okay.
Next target, Alpha 13, piano key with a white piano key with a green horizontal line.
Contact.
Range 282. Impact. Let's go the other way.
So I mean, right now, all the way out to almost 300 yards, I'm just holding center with this reticle in 3x magnification. The zero on this thing is actually a 50-yard zero. So, all right, I'm ready.
Next target to the right of Alpha 1-3, there's a white silhouette with a green horizontal line. Range is 323.
323, contact.
On glass. Did you see it?
No, stand by.
Impact.
Yeah, it was off the left edge, right?
It was.
Okay.
Next target behind Alpha 1-3 is a white silhouette with 2 horizontal green lines. Range is 360.
360, all right. So this is where I'm starting to hit kind of the extent of the center dot in the reticle is big enough where it's covering up the entire silhouette, almost. I can see the very edges of the bottom, but I can't see splash. Like I'm on 3x, so I don't really get a lot of feedback on splash, so it's kind of hard for me to make corrections. Like I'm almost tempted to zoom into 9x here. I'm gonna try one more time.
Impact.
All right, so for me, what I did is the very top line of the horizontal stadia, or the vertical stadia, I have it between the center dot and the top of that line. So I'm kind of able to see it from there. And that was just off a guess. I'm like, maybe I should do a little bit of hold, put the dot pretty much just over the head. All right, next target.
Next target, berm, Alpha 5. White silhouette, green horizontal line, range is 511.
511. This is where I might have to start zooming in, but we'll see.
On glass. Can you see your splash?
No. Oh, there we go. Low. All right, now I'm gonna zoom into 9x because that's gonna be at the extent. So for 5, what's the distance?
511.
511, that is 2 up from the big stadia. Here we go. And this is where I can actually use my holds on this reticle here.
Impact.
There we go. Okay.
I'll find you a good one. On the right-hand side of the range, next to the Alpha 4 sign, silhouette with a red horizontal line. Backing up a little bit.
Okay.
Range is 457.
457, got it.
On glass. You've got some wind from right to left.
Right to left, got it.
Impact.
Okay. Playing with winds on that one.
Let's go out to berm behind Alpha 5, our old smiley face round. 611.
611, big stadia, here we go. I'm gonna hold a little bit right edge for wind.
On glass.
Oh, got it, got splash. Hit.
That was the small one.
Yeah, I know. So let me do it again because I hit that. It was just right of the, just left of that plate.
There you go.
So for that one, I am getting in 9x. I do have enough zoom where it's the glass is clear enough where I get detail. I can see my feedback and make corrections off of that. So that's the big thing I was looking on this. You know, a lot of people beat up on the second focal plane. I think it's just a matter of like, is it frustrating? Yes, sometimes, because, you know, your holds are gonna be different from one magnification range to the other. However, you know, going out to 400, you know, in reality, I can use an entire reticle versus something being super small. And then it's just something else to train on. It's something different, you know what I'm saying? But like, that's how they get this thing so small, is the second focal plane allows them to be able to compact that size a lot more. I mean, like, what do you think in comparison to like an LCAN or an ACOG, you know? What are your thoughts?
You know, I like my ACOG. I shot it yesterday and I really liked it. I liked that it was compact. It had nice, good, clear glass, which is one of the things I like about the ACOG.
Yeah.
For my uses, I felt like the reticle was a little thick. Like what you were,
Here,
what you were saying when it was covering things up.
Yeah.
Even when I was running it over in the other bay, the 600 bay, I felt I could hit targets with the scope that was covered with the reticle, so I couldn't make the shot.
Yeah. So
smaller than man-sized targets at range.
Yeah.
Becomes really difficult because it's a thick reticle.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it is thick. It does lighten up a little bit when you're zoomed in at 9x, but on 3x, it is I mean, in general, the Stadia and even the Dot are pretty thick.
Yeah.
Pretty thick. So let's kind of see where the extent of that goes. So we just did 612. Get me on the next target.
All right, right behind where we're at, the white berm, there's a white gong with a red horizontal line, 748.
All right, they are engaging that. So let's
want to jump to 860?
Yeah.
All right, other side of the range, unpainted silhouette on a white berm.
All right, I am up.
On glass, 860.
Way short.
Way short.
Oh!
Woo-hoo.
I see it. I got splash. I mean, I could see splash at 860. Making corrections here.
That was a hit.
Try to get it. That was a hit again.
Yeah, it was.
So 55 grain, 860 yards. I'm using the very bottom line of the last Stadia at the reticle. Now, like I said, yes, it's a thick Stadia, but I'm seeing splash, and I'm actually, if I have wind, having that longer Stadia allows me to give a frame of reference to be able to make a hold for wind. It's like that fine line.
There's some decent wind out there.
Say again?
There's some decent wind out there.
It is some decent wind. It's almost like that fine line, though, of like, what's too thick, what's not enough information, what's too much information with not enough labeling, and kind of playing with that. And then thinking about the role for this optic, like what type of shooter do you foresee this being a perfect role?
Well, I was saying yesterday, that would be my basic rifleman optic.
Yeah.
Right? So we talked with Adrian from Sidewinder. 300 and in is close combat. Your riflemen want to engage out to 455 so that you can engage people before you're on a two-way range.
Right.
Perfect optic for that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's light, it's easy to use. You don't have to be counting mil dots in it. You've got enough magnification for PID.
Yeah.
You can look at stuff. It's robust. That's where I see that optic really shining.
Yeah.
Is in that rifleman role.
And then having the 9X also allows you the ability to just observe, which most of the time is stuff that you're going to be doing. Is having the glass is just to observe to see, is that target even worth shooting, right?
Yeah, makes salute reports easier.
Yeah, 100%.
The key is the glass is clear enough you can see your own splash. I took a ranging shot at 5.
Yeah.
Saw the splash, corrected it, and sent it, and it tipped.
Yeah,
I'm at like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
I'm not even dialed all the way in. It works really well.
The key, I think the biggest thing is it goes back to you got to know your hold, or you got to have the skills competent enough to be able to, one, know your hold difference from 3X to maxed in, and then also, like, having the ability, like we do during the distance carving course, see your splash, get your feedback, make your correction.
Yeah, if you're willing to send it first shot, then it doesn't, the second focal plane doesn't matter. Pick a mag that you can see, send a shot, and correct on it.
Yeah. You know, part of me, what do you think about having this on something like a squad weapon, like a 249 or something of that nature?
Yeah.
So you at least get some sort of reticle where you have some sort of drop, or like if you're running, somebody's running a flashlight or a red right hand upper, and they're going to be, you know, the squad gunner. Like maybe that might be something that would make sense.
Yeah, or an H-bar with super safety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're like a red right hand. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, not gonna lie, I think the key is like, what is the role? What's the application? What makes sense? Is it a precision optic? No. Can you make shots out to 800? Yes.
Yeah.
You can. 55 grain, you can. And obviously, you know, limitations obviously being also partially to the round, being a more common 55 grain is a more common round. But overall, I think it's an effective thing. The key is it's not one of those things. It's like, is it good or not? It goes back to like user requirement. Like, what does the user need? What's their application? What role are you fulfilling? And, you know, do you really need to be dropping $1,500 on an LPVO or something of that nature? Or having something where you've got other things already on the gun, maybe it's a heavier weapon system, do you need to add more weight by having a full-length optic? Or can you get away with getting a smaller optic that's a little bit more lighter weight, but I'm sacrificing some things, right?
Sure.
So it goes back to, is it good or bad? That's not even an answer to be, or a question that can be answered. I would just say it's clear glass, high quality, but the application needs to fit the people that it makes sense for. And that being a more average, competent rifleman.
Yeah,
so.
Definitely, yeah. So somebody that's good enough with their rifle to reach out realistically to 400 or 500, but still needs to worry about engagement, normal engagement distances, that's going to be a really good optic for.
Yeah, sick. All right, so like Dallas and I were talking about earlier in the video, this optic, there are some things about it that are really nice, and there's some things that I wish that had been done differently. The one thing though that I think is a unanimous agreement is that this could not be this tiny if it wasn't first focal plane. That's a more complex system, and the smallest one that we've ever seen is the PLXE from Primary Arms, but it's still bigger than this. So having a smaller package like this, the way that I treated it is almost as like an ACOG / LPVO had a baby, and this is what it is, right? So the only thing that I could think of that was similar to this is like an LCAN, but that's 1X to 4X, and it's a weird system how they use this. This is a lot more simple, almost essentially a baby LPVO that I treated like an ACOG or a prism style optic that has the capacity to go from 3X to 9X. So at the bottom of the range on this optic, it's the same as like almost an ACOG. And then as I zoom in, it's the same as like a 1 to 9 or a 1 to 10 LPVO. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. Now with the reticle, like Dallas was saying, I do wish the stadia was a little bit thinner. For whatever reason, it's a thicker stadia. I was still able to see stuff, but at further distances, it was harder to see targets. Now, if I had smaller targets closer up, that may have also been an issue. However, we got to think about where is the range this optic is going to be engaging, and it's going to really have a sweet spot of 500 yards and in for that rifleman that is decently competent, doesn't need a ton of information in terms of reticle, but good enough to get the job done and is really concerned about weight and a lower profile package. So having a reticle with more information, I think would have probably changed the category that this would really fit under. Now, as far as the reticle, I do wish it did have a little bit of labeling, not that big of a deal. Once you figure out your holds, like I had on my armband, I wrote all those things out, and eventually you memorize that. We just had a distance carbine course that we did at Element, and running this, it was relatively easy to be able to get faster hits. I just had to spend more time studying my optic and knowing how much to count down, and there's enough differentiation in the stadia where you can kind of use that as a reference point. Now, with that being said, where does this optic really fall into place? What category? I think someone that is looking for a very lightweight package and a smaller profile optic that still has a lot of capability. So if you're an ACOG shooter, or you run prisms very often, or you're looking for a smaller LPVO, then this is probably a good option for you. And definitely something that I think that a really skilled rifleman can actually take this and use it to a strong advantage as far as his capability. Now, talking about the rifle build itself, I'm running a 13.9 from Roscoe. This is a Roscoe manufacturing upper receiver, as well as a 13.9 mid-length H-bar barrel, and a Roscoe handguard. Very lightweight, uses M-LOK, and it has extra M-LOK around here at the end. Now, on the very front of this is the Griffin Armament Optimus 6 suppressor. It is their low back pressure suppressor, 3D printed, and extremely awesome. It has different mounting solutions for it, but I'm using the dual lock mounting solution. There will be a video coming out on the suppressor, and you guys will be very pleased with that. The dual lock, honestly, the Griffin, man, this is probably gonna be my new go-to suppressor. I'm lefty, as you guys know, southpaw shooter, so I eat a lot of that gas, so anything that can release some of that gas out the front and kind of lower that back pressure, as far as me as a shooter eating all that, is a huge pro. The other great thing is that this Roscoe upper receiver is gassed very well, so that also helps with gassing in the face. Now, for the laser on top, I am running the Steiner Signer laser. It is IR only, but really low profile, and I have a Surefire Scout Lite, old school Surefire Scout, and a direct button push. As far as this, I was also running a Defense Distributors laser, testing that out, and there will be a video coming out on that laser specifically, really small package. And that's what I was trying to do, is keep all of my equipment on here smaller in profile, just like the Optic, so that way it was a lightweight rifle, because I am going to add a little bit more weight with that barrel being an H-bar barrel. Hey guys, so hopefully you got something out of that episode. And you know, for this encouraging word at the end of this video, I have a very specific message for people in this position. And you know, one of my dear friends, Dion, who's the operations manager at Element Training Complex, he's like a brother to me. Absolutely amazing person, does so much for the Second Amendment space, getting new shooters involved into shooting and encouraging people and shooting competitions, and always just doing so much, you know, for this community. He had a younger brother who recently passed away, and his younger brother had some limitations and was really one of the biggest supporters of Dion, and they were so close. Well, you know, he passed away very recently, and you know, sometimes it is so hard to understand how things like that can happen. Sometimes it's so easy for us to get wrapped up in life's busyness that you know, we feel like we miss out on opportunities to spend time with people. And you know, for Dion, every time he talked about his brother, it was like you could just see the joy on his face and the excitement and just the pure love for his brother. And you know, it helped me to get an understanding of how we should all be really spending time with people that we love and not taking things for granted. And also, in this life, we live in a finite life. Everything will come to an end. One day I will pass away. And you know, one day all of us will end up going and passing away, and our bodies will stay here on earth, but our spirits will go somewhere else. And you know, I believe Matthew is spending time with the Lord now, where he gets to run and jump and play. And it literally left me with reminded me of a verse in Isaiah chapter 11. And we kind of get a picture and a glimpse from this prophet about what heaven is like and what we get to go to, and the excitement that will come after this life in a world that's more real than this life. And it says, "The wolf will live with the lamb, and the leopard will lie down with the goat, the calf and the lion and the yearling together. A little child will lead them. The cow will feed the bear, their young will lie down together, and the lion will eat straw like the ox. And the young child will put its hands into the viper's nest. They will neither harm nor destroy on all my holy mountain, for the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea." And so it is, you know, heaven is described, in the new earth that comes after heaven is described as an absolute paradise, and you know, where the lion and the lamb lay down together and the child is leading them. And so, you know, sometimes it's so easy to get lost in the mire and misery of this world. And the sad thing is that we will all eventually deal with grief of losing a loved one, but it gives so much comfort and joy to know that they are now with the Lord and also living their best life. Everybody that I've heard about, you know, written near-death experience that has had that heavenly experience is like, you don't want to come back. Like, you feel sorry for the people that are here remaining on the earth, but you are just so overwhelmed with the joy and the pure bliss, and everything is so much more real and so much more vivid. Like, you can see sound and you can smell sound and feel, taste. Everything is just so much more. And you know, the joy that is in heaven is so much that we can not even compare it or imagine it here on the earth. And also, it is all full of the love of the Lord. And so, you know, that is such an amazing hope that we have in Jesus, and an amazing hope to know that one day we will all be united with the people that we love. We will all be united with our friends and family who have gone on before us. And this is just a temporary thing. You know, this life, we have a unique purpose. There are organizations and entities and people like that will tell you that you're not worth anything, or that you don't have purpose, or that, you know, you are nothing, you're just a number. And I want to tell you that Jesus does not view you that way. He designed you for a purpose. He designed you for a task to love others, just like Dion's brother loved him and his family dearly. You know, God used his brother to be able to love other people and impact other people's lives that, in a way that no one else could do. And to see that we have a mission set to care for people, to love each other, because one day we will be united together with those that we love in the presence of the Lord. And so if you're going through a hard time, or you're going through a bout of depression, or you're going through a really bad chapter in your life, or maybe you've lost someone and you're dealing with grief, I want you to know that there is hope, that you will see them again, and there will be an epic reunion one day that we will all have together. And you know, I want every single person in this community that's watching this video to know that Jesus loves you. Jesus loves you so much, and that he wants a relationship specifically with you, and he has a purpose and a mission for your life that only you can fulfill. It's the most important thing in the planet, and God's like, I can only use you for this specific mission. You have a huge task before you, and I will love you as you're doing it, and love you and show you the path that I've made for you, because I want that relationship with you. And so if you're going through a hard time, or you're dealing with grief and you want a prayer request, email me at team@barrelhatchet.com. I'd love to pray for you. Comment in this video below. There's tons of Christians within this community that would love to pray for you. And also, I have linked Dion's brother's GoFundMe for the funeral and the service. We're almost there at that challenge of being able to fulfill that, that goal. And so if you would like to donate to Dion and his family, I know it would be a huge blessing to them. If you can, the most important thing, just say a prayer for him and his family, and also for other people who are dealing with loss. Guys, go out there, look out for each other, love each other, train to be the eternal asset. My name is Eric, and I will see you on the next one.